Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. In our today's lecture, we are going to learn about the next topic, which is a network application architectures. So before we start this topic, let's revise our previous lecture. In our previous lecture, we have learned three different things, which is a network applications of application layer, what is process and what is socket. Yes, so the network applications of application layers are email, web, remote login, Skype, YouTube, yes, social networking apps. So all that applications are called the network applications, and that resides on the application layer. And by using that application, we can communicate over the network. The second term that we have learned is what is a process. So the process is called an instance of a program running in any computers, or we can say that a process is a program under the execution. Yes, so if we are writing any C program or the Python program or any program, and that executed program is called a process. If I open a web browser, so that web browser is also one process. If I open a Skype on my laptop, because Skype is currently running on your system, then so that is also called one process. Yes, now the third term is what is socket. Okay. So a process sends a message, and the receiver receives the message, and the network through a software interface communicate is called the sockets. So we can compare socket with one door. So we can generally communicate via the a door. So we can compare a process with the house. So if a process wants to communicate with another process, then that can happen via the door. So that door or the entry points are called the socket. Yes, so I hope now you are clear with all these terms. So let's start with our today's session. Our today's topic is the network application architectures. So mainly there are two network application architecture, which is a client server architecture and peer-to-peer or P2P architecture. So in today's lecture, we are going to learn a client server architecture. So let's start. So the client server architecture is a model that describes how a server provides resources and services to the one or more clients. The main focus is of sharing the information. So for example, the servers includes a web server, mail server, file servers, etc. And each of these servers provides the resources to the client devices such as desktop computers, laptops, tablets and smartphone. So based on this information, we can say that any PC or laptop or smartphone or tablets that are connected to the internet are called the client. Yes, any devices that are connected to the network are called the client. But there are mainly two types of computers, that some of are highly configured and some of are less configured. So suppose let's assume one company. So in company there are many people are working. So each employee has their assigned computer or laptop. So that computer or laptop are used by the employee, or we can say that is used by the client. So that is called the client device. While on another hand, all the company's data are stored in one highly configured computer, and all the data can be accessed by the client. Yes, so all the data which is centrally stored on that computer, so that highly configured computer is called the server. So the server is that device which stores each and every data centrally. So most server have one-to-many relationship with clients, meaning that there are only one server, and there are multiple clients is connected with that server. So in the simplest term, one can imagine a company's information system as a consisting of one or more databases with company information and some numbers of employees who need to access them remotely. So in this model, data are stored on a powerful computers are called servers. Often these are centrally housed and maintained by a system administrator. So the server is also maintained by some people, or it is called that administrator. In contrast, the employee have a simpler machines called the clients on the desk with which they access a remote data. For example, to include a spreadsheets they are constructing, or sometimes will refer to the human user of the client machine as a client. But it should be clear from the context that whether we mean the computer or its user. So the client and the server machines are connected by the network. So as shown in the figure, there are two clients. They are connected over the network, and the network is also, and the one server PC that is also connected over the network. So this whole arrangement is called the client-server model. It is widely used and forms the basis of much network uses. The most popular realization is that of web application, in which the server generates a web pages based on its database in response to the client requests that may update the database. So the client-server model is applicable when the client and server are both in the same building, but also when they are far apart. So this model is very important because if we are on the same location, that on that scenario we can also use the client server, and if we are far from each other, then at that situation we can also use the client server model. So for example, when a person at home access a web page on the World Wide Web, the same model is employed with the remote web server being the server and user's personal computer being the client. So under the most condition, one server can handle a large numbers of clients simultaneously. So that is a brief about the client server architecture. So I am just providing the information that there are more than one client which is connected over the network. There is only a one server, so it has a relationship is one to many, one server and many clients, and all that client and server is connected to the network, and they are communicating with each other. So let's understand how client and server are communicate with each other. So typically a client server interaction goes like this. The user runs a client software to create a query. The client connects to the server. The client sends the query to the server. The server analyzes the query. The server computes the result of the query, and the server sends the result to the client. And at the end, the client presents the result to the users and repeat as the necessary. So on every request, client has to connect with the server. Then after client requests for some data requests some data with query in form of query, server analyzes that query, it fetches the data from the database and return the results to the client, and that result is shown in the client screen. So that is the simple scenario of client server communication. So if we look at the client server model in detail, we see that two processes are involved, one of the client machine and another on the server machine. So communication takes the form of client process sending a message over the network to the server process. The client process then waits for the reply message. When the server process gets the request, it performs the requested work on lookups and requested a data and send back a reply to the client. So these messages are shown. So this process is shown in this figure. So So this is how the client server architecture, so this is how client server are communicating with each other. Other richer forms of communications are made possibly by computer networks. Video and audios are uploaded on the server so that employees at the distant location can see and hear each other as they hold a meeting. This technique is a powerful tool for eliminating the cost and time previously devoted to travel. Desktop sharing lets remote workers see and interact with the graphical computer screen. Yeah? We can do it by the TeamViewer. This makes it easy for two or more people who work far apart to read and write and share a blackboard or the white report together. When one worker makes a change to an online document, the other can see the change immediately, instead of waiting the several days of later. So such speed-ups makes a cooperation among the group of people easy where it previously had been impossible. So with the help of the client-server architecture, we can do many things easily. So this is a very important architecture in the computer network. If you want to learn the computer network, then you must know the communication or the structure of the client-server architecture. So I hope now the client-server communication is clear and its application is also clear. So in today's lecture we have learned client-server architecture. In the client-server architectures, mainly two devices are there. There is one client device, there is one server device. Server device is somehow highly configured. The examples of servers are web servers of Google or web servers of Amazon, yes, mail server, file server, etc. While on the other side, less configured computers are there that is used by the end users, and that clients are desktop computers, laptops, tablets and smartphones. And client-server architecture has one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship. It means one server and multiple clients are connected over the network. So this is simple structure of client-server architecture. Next is how communication is done on the client-server architecture. So client first, if client want to communicate via the server, then client first create the connection with the server. So it join on the particular network. Then after, client requests the data in the form of query to the server. Server analyze that query. At that time, client waits for the reply. Server analyze that query, fetch the data from the database and reply to the client, and the result is shown in the client display. So that is how client server architecture or the client server model is communicated. The application that we have seen is a remote desktop is one application of client server architecture. There is people who are not at the same location, they can work together, yes. And suppose if I want to access one document which is resides on the server and I am not at the location of the server, even if I can access the document with the client server model. So these are the some of application that use the client server architecture. So in nowadays there are many applications who use the client server architecture, like e-commerce websites all use the client server model. Another is airline bookings, train bookings, yes, online bookstores. All that are the application that use the client server model, and on that user communicate with the server with the help of client server model. So that is all about client server architecture. There are some advantages of client server network. So the first advantage is the network is secure. So in the client server network, shared resources are located in the centralized area, which is a server. So they are administered centrally. So that is a secure. Next is a better performance. So the dedicated server computers are more expensive than the standard computers workstation, but they offer a considerably better performance. As I already said that server computers are highly configured, so that is why the performance is obviously better than the client's computer. Centralized backup is also the advantage of client server model. So backing up company's important data is much easier when it is located on the centralized server. So centralized backup is much faster too. And the next is a higher reliability. So in client server network, centralized dedicated server provides more reliability. It has built-in redundancy. Okay, so that is why the client server model is very reliable. Central file storage, which allows all users to work from the same of the data. Next, it reduces the cost because of sharing of hardware and software. It can have a dedicated server which increases the speeds of sharing resources. Single passwords allows access to all the shared resources. Yes, if we put one password on one folder, and if we apply that password on that folder, then we can access all the resources that lies on the resides on that folder. Central organization which keeps the data from getting lost among computers, and easy manageability of large numbers of users. Because data is stored centralized on the centralized location, so fear for losing the data is less, and the individuals users don't have to manage one shared sources, because there is one team who is continuously working on this continuously monitoring the server. So it is easy to manage the shared resources. At the same time, there are some disadvantages of the client server architecture. The first is professional administration is required. Yes, because a client server network usually needs a professional administrator, because you can hire a network administrator, or you can use a companies which provides a professional network administration services, because server administration is not an easy task, and so for that you have to hire one person who has a knowledge of network administration. We have to use a high-speed server computer with lots of memory and disk space. Yes, we have to purchase that kinds of PC for the server machine who has a high speed and lots of memory. It requires a special network operating system and large and numbers of client licenses. Yes, because if we want to work with the client server model, that we have to purchase a licensed client machines, and for the server special types of operating systems is also required. It is expensive, because I already said that the server machine is very highly configured, and for that the cost is very high. Also it requires a maintenance cost, and also the maintenance cost is also very high. So that are some disadvantages of a client server model. So that is all about the client server architecture. So that's it for the today's lecture. From next lecture we will start the P2P or peer-to-peer architecture. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.